Come on, tell me a story. Once upon a time, there was this princess.
Tamora.
Tamora? Guessing that's not your real name. Do you know she's a violent, dark presence in Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus?
Hi, I'm Sophia Jessica, and this is Angel, and welcome to the Fan Carpet.
Hi there, I'm Sophia from the Fan Carpet, and today we have the pleasure of interviewing Tim Kent for the film Sparrows' Call. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Sophie. How are you?
Good, thank you. And I just wanted to ask you, how did you get involved in this film?
Well, Billie, the writer, we worked on a short film back in 2013 called Two Persons Max, which is about two women that was stuck in a lift, which was shot at Pinewood in the small process stage, which sadly is no longer there. They've knocked it down to build some huge big film studio, which they're now shooting Marvel films in. And it was shot by an unknown cinematographer called James Friend, who is about to, I think, win an Oscar this weekend because he shot All Quiet on the Western Front.
Wow.
So like Billie and I, he's moved forward, and from those small short films, bigger and better things have come. So that's how I started my relationship with Billie and indeed James Friend, because I've worked with him on other projects since as well. So rock on short films, because that's kind of where it all starts.
It does. And would you say that throughout your career, there was a defining moment for you to get into this to the entertainment industry as a director?
Well, I own the Actors Studio, which is based at Pinewood Studios, which I've been the owner of that for we're cracking on for 25 years. So I suppose if you think about it, over 25 years, we specialize in teaching actors screencraft, acting in front of a camera for film and TV. And over that period of time, we've had every director and acting coach and cinematographer come in and give us their words of wisdom and teach actors of all levels. I mean, some of them are now highly successful and they're leads in Netflix shows and in the West End and all sorts of things. So yeah, that's I think that's where it came from. Obviously, teaching actors and being on set, for maybe 10 years at least, on set 3 or 4 days a week, directing actors with film crews. And I suppose it was a natural progression. Like all of us, I mean, you don't start as a director, because in order to be a film director, you've got to have a fairly good idea of what everybody does on a film set. Because if you don't, you can't direct them. So, all right, I don't want to be a cinematographer. I don't want to be a production designer. I don't want to be an editor. But I've got to have a good idea about what they do within their department in order to direct them. And the only way that you kind of get into that situation is by, just spending hours working with actors, working with crews, with camera people, with sound people, with composers, with writers. And I think, it's almost it's almost like going up the ranks of being in the army. You spend a certain amount of years, you gain the experience, and you go up a rank. So I suppose after many years, you kind of thought, well, I need to have a go at directing a feature film now, because I feel like
you've had enough experience.
I feel like I'm ready to do it.
After experiencing all the other kind of roles, you have to sort of like, I'm ready now for the next, the highest level, after you've experienced all the other levels, and well, not levels necessarily, but all the other roles.
Yeah, you as I said, you've got to have. I mean, lots of people come to me and say, "Oh, I want to be a director," and I said, "Well, how do I become a director?" And the answer to that is you just need to spend a lot of time on set working with creative people, whether that, as I said, is a cinematographer, is a sound designer, a writer, and gradually over a period of time, you think, well, you know what, I can do this now. I've got a handle on it. I mean, I still think, even to this day, I kind of think, how have I got the divine right to be the director of a feature film? Because it's quite a label to have. And part of me thinks, well, how could I do it? What makes me? But I think part of it is you've just got to roll the dice and think, you know what, we're just going to try and climb Mount Everest and hope we get to the top.
And you did. So that's
Yeah.
wonderful. And do you have like a favorite, obviously being director, and this isn't your first time directing, is it? You've obviously
first time directing a full-blown feature film, but I mean, I've directed literally thousands of things, whether it's actor show reels, whether it's short films, whether it's music videos, whether it's TV commercials. I mean, I've spent, like I said, probably 10 years of being on set nearly every day of the week for 10 years.
Wow. So I feel like, this step with the feature, after you directed so many other things, is, it's like it's a new step. But would you say you enjoyed this more than because of sort of other things you directed? Would you be interested in filming again as a director for a feature?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely up for the challenge of climbing the next highest mountain. And I think what you gain, whether or not you're an actor or a director, what you gain when you take on these roles is the experience. And when you've played lots of roles as an actor, or you've filmed lots of different things and managed to climb to the heights of directing a feature film, it's the knowledge you gain, and it's the knowledge that then becomes valuable because you've done it, how to do it. I mean, I can't imagine, and having been based at Pinewood Studios for nearly 25 years, I speak to directors and producers that are directing the biggest films in the world, and I don't think it gets any easier. But I think, when you have the knowledge, that journey becomes more enjoyable. It's not when you're doing your first feature film, and obviously we shot a lot of ours during the pandemic, so that didn't make it the easiest journey in the world. But I think you've just it's that knowledge and experience that the second time round, when you do something, you think, I've got this, I know how this works, I've done this role before and I know how to do it. Whereas the first time it's a bit you're kind of like
new waters.
Like I said, who gives you the divine right to direct a feature film? I suppose it's the same with actors. If all of a sudden you become the lead of a feature film and carrying a feature film, it's a huge responsibility. But once you've done it once, you kind of have the knowledge to do it again, and hopefully enjoy the journey slightly more. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy Sparrow's Call. It's been a fantastic experience, but it hasn't been the easiest thing in the world. Partly it was during a pandemic. I'm just going to let my dog out, who did actually star in the film. His name's Jovi. Jovi, just come here.
Yeah, we could say hi.
This is Jovi.
Wonderful.
He did actually. Hi everyone. Look, hi.
Oh, and speaking of which, this Jovi and Angel, say hi to Jovi.
Hey, Angel, Jovi. Hi.
Very
I'm going to let him
sweet.
out now. Hang on 1 second.
No worries.
Right, he's gone. He's gone back to his Winnebago.
And did he you said he starred in the film, what kind of scene, what was that sort of, and also how was he on set?
I mean, when you make independent films, I mean, a lot of it you do very impromptu. You've got very limited time. You suddenly think, right, where are we going to shoot this? It's going to rain, or the location that we wanted to use unfortunately has fallen through, so we shot a scene on Eton Bridge, which is the bridge between Eton and Windsor, which is a lovely bridge, and we just went down there. And I think one of the things that I've always been taught by directors along my journey is obviously try and make scenes interesting. All right, it might just be a scene between two people, but I think what's always interesting, and I say this to actors all the time when I direct actors, it's not just about what you're saying, it's also about what you're doing. So when I work with actors, you're always trying to think, right, okay, the dialogue is between you and I, but while I'm having the dialogue, I'm having a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And
So
that
it's
just makes everything a little bit more organic. It just makes it look a little bit more real. Otherwise, it's just kind of like, hi, how are you? You look lovely today. And it kind of becomes a little bit more like acting and you know, not an organic process where you just watch something and think, oh yeah, that looks really natural. And
yeah.
I think sometimes when you get people doing something, it just makes everything look a little bit more organic. So I certainly thought,
It's a
right,
good tip.
we'll get Jovi in there. And, you know, so the actor in the scene, he was out walking his dog, and we kind of improvised it, and it all seemed to work quite well.
And was he well behaved as it would on set?
He was quite well behaved. Yeah, he got an extra portion of dog food that night.
Good. I'm sure he would like to work again for the extra portion of the food. So
Would, yeah. I see
book him
in the
again.
corner. I see there in the corner you've got tails.
Oh yeah, yeah. Are you a fan of tails?
Yeah, we're tails. Sorry, yeah, we're
yeah.
yeah.
A good choice.
Every other week. Yeah.
A good choice. And yeah, so you mentioned the tip that you got from the director about, you know, making the scene more interesting by adding, you know, doing something as well as just the words. Did you specifically ask anyone, you know, a fellow friend or director about any tips on on directing feature films?
Not especially, no. I mean, I've been very blessed that, you know, while having the Actors Studio, we've, you know, I mean, she still does to this day. We have Mel Churcher working for us, who's one of the most renowned acting coaches in the world. I mean, she's been an acting coach on over 50 feature films. And you know, Mel's worked for Actors Studio for years. So, you know, I've watched her many times. I see how she is with actors, you know, and obviously that it's that knowledge again that you kind of soak up. I mean, more recently we've had a director in, again, she's been working for Actors Studio for quite some time, called Sue Dunderdale. Sue was the creative director of RADA for 10 years, and she used to teach directors. So I mean,
You've learned a lot.
I just used those two as examples, but when you've got powerhouses like Mel Churcher and Sue Dunderdale coming in, and you're watching them and learning from them all the time, you know, you're really learning from the best. So, you know, you just soak it all up, and hopefully you can kind of regurgitate it, you know, a little bit like they do, and put my own little twist on it.
And did you enjoy, you know, this experience as a director? And how does it compare to all the other things that you've done in your career up to this point?
I think nothing quite compares to directing a feature film. I mean, a short film, you're kind of making it purely for art, and with that, the expectation isn't quite there. I mean, you know, people have said that to me many times. Well, it's a short film. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense. It's a short film. You know, it's not. You don't have that responsibility and pressure of thinking, right, I've got investors that have given me, you know, big lumps of money. I've got expectations that with a feature film, half the world is going to watch it, and your reputation is kind of on the line. So the challenge is certainly so much more. And the expectations on you and everybody on a feature film is really raised, because, you know, you're making an original piece of art. I mean, it's like me saying to you, Sophie, right, I'm going to give you a blank canvas and a set of paints, and I want you to paint a picture, and hopefully the whole world is going to like your picture and pay hundreds of thousands or millions of pounds for it.
A lot more pressure.
And if I gave you that responsibility, you would probably feel a lot of pressure yourself as well. And I won't lie, you know, that has certainly been at the back of my mind for a long time, all the way through this process, that you're making an original piece of art that no one's ever seen before. No one's heard the music, no one's seen the actors, no one's seen the locations, no one's seen the script. And you lie in bed many a time thinking, God, you know, is anyone actually going to like this?
It's something that you know, now that you've done it, obviously there are going to be some maybe some concerns, but also some things that you've learned, or some things that you're very happy with. It's just all part of doing something new, but it must feel good to have done this step, and you know, and now you know as well what to take for the next time you direct a film. But it definitely sounds a lot more pressured than the short, as you said.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think the thing with feature films is you have investors. You know,
Yes.
you have people that kind of have put their
Expectations.
yeah, and they've kind of bought into you and thought, oh, you know what, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. And you know, I showed them some of my work in terms of, you know, other stuff that I'd filmed before it, and based on that, they kind of commissioned me to make a feature film. But you know, when people are giving you hundreds of thousands of pounds, you know, you have the added pressure all the time of thinking, you know, I've got to make this film as good as I possibly can. Not that you wouldn't anyway, but not just for arts
For yourself,
purposes,
yeah.
but commercially, you've got to sell it. So, you know, whether or not it's the music, the sound, the editing, the grading, you know, you literally go the extra mile all the way through the process. And yeah, there's a lot of pressure on you, but I mean, it's rewarding at the same time. I mean, part of me thought, you know, the fact that we shot this film during the pandemic, I kind of thought, well, I am flying the flag for independent filmmakers here, because I don't, as far as I know, there weren't many people trying to direct a feature film during, you know, we're talking in lockdown period where, you know, you had to be in isolation for 10 days if you had COVID. And I mean, I may as well have walked into a casino and just thrown all my money on black, because it was very risky. But at the same time, I just thought, well, what am I supposed to do? Am I just supposed to roll over and go, right, okay, fair enough, you know, filmmaking's over. No one's ever going to make a film again. And I just thought, no, you know, there's all these creative people out there that need work. There are actors that need work, you know, whether it's editors, sound, music. And I just thought, no, you know what, we're going to make that film. And I think because of the situation, there was a real can do, and it was quite a humbling experience that people came together. Not, yes, I mean, we paid everyone, but I think what was lovely is that everybody was just really, really glad to be back working and doing something creative.
Doing something, yeah.
Yeah, and that was quite a humbling experience, which I really enjoyed.
That's good to hear. And in terms of on set of Sparrow's Call, did you would you say you could take away any particularly funny moments, fun moments, or challenges that just spring to mind that you could tell us about on set or in post? Anything
God.
in particularly memorable? Well, because I know it's on the spot. It's quite hard to just, you know, just choose one thing on the spot. But Billie mentioned that there was a hotel scene that had to be improvised, and it wasn't in the script, because in her mind, it she imagined it differently. And then when it came to the hotel scene, there had to be quite a lot of improvisation. Maybe if you have any sort of memories of that, about how that went, and how you found the, you know, the improvising versus the scripted.
I mean, Billie, for those of you listening to this, Billie obviously, she starred in the film and she wrote the film, so she completely got it more than anybody else, because, you know, she wrote the character that she played. So, you know, at times she understood her character better than I did, and I was the director, because she wrote it. So she really had you know, was totally connected to what she was doing, which is why I think in the film she's fantastic in it, because she wrote it, she connects to it, and she's brilliant to it. Whereas David Bark Jones, who is the sort of the lead male in the film, he is, I mean, he's a wonderful actor. He's been the lead at the National Theatre, and, you know, done lots of plays, and, you know, lots of big films with very, very big actors. And he just soaked it up very, very quickly, understood his character very well, as you would expect with a good working actor like that. And it was interesting, you know, Billie bringing her character in, and then David just kind of, because of his, I mean, he was very well cast. I must say that the casting director that cast him, he was perfect for it. He plays a university lecturer in the film, very sort of, he's an intellectual. He's not very worldly, especially when it comes to sort of, some of it is set in a strip club, as you were saying, and it's not his world at all. And
opposites
I think,
in the characters that Billie plays,
opposite.
and yeah.
But David just was very, very good at just bringing things. I mean, he's the sort of actor that can look at a script 30 seconds before a take, and he'll read it once and just give you an interpretation of it, which is wonderful from a director's point of view, to be able to work with actors like that. And I think the fact that Billie found her character, because she wrote it and was so, you know, just gravitated towards the character, it made it easier for David to play against Billie, because Billie wasn't looking for her character. Billie gave David this sort of tough character who you know, she's a European woman that's come to the country, that's finding it hard to get work, and has a, you know, a difficult family life, and Billie kind of really identified with all of those things. I mean, Billie's actually Greek, but she came to this country, and, you know, I think initially she found it very difficult, and I think because she was so related to all of that, that, you know, if we did improvise it, it wasn't as if Billie was trying to find a character. She was in it, she lived it, and I think, you know, David just kind of jumped on board with that.
Makes it very real.
Yeah, it made it very real. Yeah. But yeah, generally we didn't improvise too much. You know, I think you know, we went a little bit off script from here and there, which I think, whenever you're doing scenes which are very high drama, with lots of energy, which in parts of the film there are, you know, I think you've got to give actors the freedom to kind of go a little bit off-piste. I think giving actors, you know, getting them to wear a straitjacket is not the way forward, personally. It's just like, guys, you know what's going on in this scene, just go for it and let's see what happens. We were lucky in some of the more heated scenes in the film that we shot it with 2 cameras. So we, you know, it's when you've got just one camera, then it becomes very difficult to improvise scenes, because as soon as you move that camera, that improvisation has got to be more or less the same, because if you move the camera, how do you cut it if the dialogue's changing? Whereas with a lot of the heated scenes that we did for continuity purposes, we used 2 cameras, so we kind of hoovered it all up in one go, because we had one camera on David and one camera on Billie, which meant that they could improvise it.
And in terms of the film, how would you describe this film if you were to tell the audience, you know, to watch this film? Like, what is it about, without giving away too many spoilers?
It's funny, because I've been thinking about that over the last few days, having had a couple of private screenings now. I think it's a very, very quirky, unconventional love story. Yeah, but it's very, very off the wall. It's very off the wall, and it's not predictable. There are things within the film that you think are very, very predictable, and I think that's the appeal of this film, is they end up not being predictable.
Twists.
It reels you in, and you kind of think, oh, I know exactly where this is going, and then right at the last minute it goes at a right angle. And I think that's one of the strengths, I think, very much of Billie's writing. It goes at right angles all the time. And, you know, we've had one private screening that we had at Pinewood for companies that have worked on the film, and, you know, everybody that I spoke to said that they were totally engrossed in the film for the whole film, because they just didn't have a clue of where the film was going, and they all found that very, very, enjoyable to watch a feature film.
Well, that's the best thing
trick.
about, and that's the best thing about films with twists, is that you're just surprised. You're being predictable films, they're not as exciting as ones with twists and unpredictability. So I think that's a great compliment to hear that they were just kept entertained throughout the whole thing. They didn't know where it was going.
I think the other thing about it as well is it's original. I think these days we see so many films, especially at Pinewood, they're all remakes of something, remakes of a book that we've seen time and time again. And I think what was really nice with this is, everything about it is original. It's an original script. The music is original. And for me as a first-time director, that was very appealing, to think, right, I'm doing something that no one's ever seen before. It's completely new.
It's more rare these days.
Yes, it is. But I think as a first-time film, that was something that I really enjoyed. The fact that it was something, I mean, it's certainly a challenge, but it's something that I enjoyed.
And do you have a favorite movie genre to watch versus direct? Or I know, in terms of other things that you've done, like shorts, do you have a specific genre you like to direct? And is it different to what you like to watch personally?
No, probably not, actually. I mean, that's a good question. I think I like quirky films. I like films that are unpredictable, and things a little bit off the wall, things that make you, I mean, we all like to be entertained. We all like that escapism. I mean, how many of us, when we get home from work, we'll stick on something like Casualty or Doctors or some crazy thing, and you find yourself eating your dinner watching someone on the operating theatre, and you're talking to your partner about how your day was while they're trying to save someone's life. It's just because you want escapism, I think. And I certainly think that Sparrow's Call has got that. It's something, what happens in that film isn't something that happens every day. So from the moment the film starts, you're intrigued, because you're thinking, what is going on in this film? This isn't something that I've experienced or I've ever gone through. There are elements within the film that people can relate to, but I think generally what happens in this film is not something that happens to anybody on an average day. So that certainly, I think, is very appealing for the audience, and that's the intrigue of it. People are like thinking, what on earth is going on in this film? And just when you think you know what's going on in it, it goes off in a different direction again.
Yeah, it's like introducing people to a kind of like a new world and new concepts and new stories. It brings something new to people's lives through the film.
That's it. Yeah, that's certainly been one of the exciting things about it, and especially now it's got an audience. It's lovely to finally see people watching it and responding to it and going, "Oh my God, I couldn't believe it when that happened and this happened," and that's lovely as a director to watch. Yeah.
And in terms of your career and in general your life, what else, you've achieved so much, but what else would you say you're looking forward to, that in terms of plans? What would you like to do in the remainder of the career and your life? Do you have anything specific you want to carry on with?
I mean, I'd certainly would like to direct at least another 4 or 5 feature films, I think, and hopefully, one of them will be a huge success and I'll make my millions. I'm not sure it'll be Sparrow's Call, but who knows? I mean, it might be. I mean, one of the learning curves that I've got, which I find quite sad actually, is how these days commercially it's all about who's in your film. Whereas from my humble beginnings, with the actor studio and just working with good actors and good creatives, you just think, why can't it just be a good film on its own merit? Why does it have to have, some box office actor in it who might not necessarily even be a good actor, but, he's got 60 million people following him on Twitter or, whatever, social media. I think certainly having a bigger budget helps. But sometimes, you know, when you've got a bigger budget, it doesn't necessarily mean that the passion's there and the love. And, you know, when you make an indie film like this, you know, a lot of it, you do it with passion and love, and, you know, you want everything in it to be as perfect as it can be. But you know, certainly if I make another 4 or 5 films, I'm looking forward to having, you know, a slightly bigger budget. So, you know, I'm not having to sort of pull in every favor under the sun and
make cut corners and things that can be
yeah,
hard. Yeah.
I think I mean, obviously you've got to do that with any film to a certain extent, but I think for me as a director, what I want to be in a position that I can just concentrate on being the director of the movie and not having to. I mean, I had a wonderful producer that worked with us on this called Alessio Bergamo, an Italian, and he was great. I mean, you know, he really was my rock. But because it was an indie film, I was still very heavily involved in the production side as well. Before, during, and after, you know, I've always been the talisman of the film, and I think having a slightly bigger budget means that you're in a position just to be a creative and just think, right, I am just thinking about the picture from a creative point of view, as opposed to, you know, what time does the catering need to be arriving, and, you know, where
Producing
are the
it as well, like
yeah, exactly. You know, I think having a bigger budget just gives you more time to prep, and also it gives you more time to think about what you're going to shoot. You know, when you make indie films, you hire a location and you turn up and you shoot on that day. You know, it's not as if you've got a week to be in that location beforehand and think, right, how are we going to shoot? Let's shoot it through the window and then do a close up of this, and then the wind will be blowing outside, and you know, you can really choreograph a scene a lot more than actually just turning up on the day and going, right, well, you sit on the sofa and you sit on the other end and we'll shoot the scene. What a bigger budget does is it just means that you can work a bit more with your production designer and your art department and your actors to choreograph things which just ultimately bring the production value up. It's still the same conversation that you're having, but, you know, at the moment I'm in a dark room and you're in a room with sort of, you know, fairly magnolia vanilla walls. You know, if we had exotic lights in the background and lots of interesting things, it just boosts the production value, and that's what a budget has. So I'm looking forward, you know, to making a film with a bit more budget. And just, you know, I like the process of working with creative people and kind of bringing a piece of paper to life.
Yeah, and it sounds as well with the bigger budgets, you can add more details, add more organization, and it just makes it easier to, you know, to create a film without restrictions. So yeah, it's always good to aim for the high budget. And do you have a personal favorite film that you know, that comes to mind, all-time favorite or a top 3? And not that you've directed, you know, not that you've been involved in necessarily, just
I think
yeah.
I think in recent times one of my favorite films has been a film called Capernaum.
What's that about?
It's about a young boy who lives in Beirut that takes his parents to court. Which it won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival in 2018, was nominated for an Oscar for Best Foreign Film. It was the year that Alfonso Cuarón won with the Roma. He won with Roma, but I mean, in my opinion, Capernaum was infinitely better. And if you haven't seen it, everyone that's watching this, watch it. I mean, it is an absolute masterpiece in filmmaking. It truly is. It's just the most wonderful film. And others, I think, in Sparrow's Call, there is an elderly lady playing one of the characters, and her name is Valerie Colgan. She was in Aliens, directed by James Cameron, and that's the one that Sigourney Weaver goes back and saves a little girl that's living underneath the kind of floorboards of the spaceship. I would say that's probably in my top 2 or 3 films, Aliens, and the fact that she's in it is even better.
That's wonderful.
And I've always been a fan of the original Blade Runner as well. So I mean, they're my favorite ever film would be Once Upon a Time in America with Sergio Leone.
That's good to know. And that's, I haven't seen a lot of those, but I'm gonna add them to my to watch list, I think,
Definitely
to have.
Caffeinarum, yeah.
Yes. And in terms of what you're doing next, is there anything that you could tell us about?
Obviously, the key thing for this is for Sparrow's Call now to get as much, publicity and sell it to as many countries as we possibly can all over the world. So yeah, so I'll be out in Cannes with Alessio, the producer, and lots of friends. It's a place I go every year. It's a very creative place, and it'll be interesting because now you kind of you have the title of you wear the belt that you're a feature film director and producer. People tend to kind of go, oh right, well, can you make my film? So more and more offers coming in, so I suppose it's a question of just sort of sitting down and thinking, right, what do I want to commit the next 3 or 4 years to in order to make the next film. I mean, there's such a huge undertaking making feature films. It is a big consideration because you've got to live with it for years and still be passionate about it at the end of it.
That's right. So it sounds like you've got networking and opportunities and just decisions to make next. Yes.
I mean, I have got scripts that I've been given, and people are going, well, we'd love you to direct this, we'd love you to direct that, but at the moment I'm keeping everything close to my chest until I make the decision.
Sounds good. And just wanted to ask you about, what's your opinion on streaming platforms such as Netflix and Prime versus cinema?
Well, if you make a film, in my opinion, is for the cinema, but we are, we're on a platform now, aren't we? We're using a platform to have this conversation, and I appreciate that there is a need for it. However, I mean, if you make a feature film, certainly, and you've gone to all the effort that I've gone to in terms of the music, the sound design, the look of the film, the grade of the film, you don't go to all that trouble of making a film that is then subsequently going to be shown on a laptop or on a phone. I'll just about meet you a little not even halfway when you want to show it on your nice big home cinema, but films are meant to be shown in the cinema. But unfortunately, people these days, I mean, a question that I always ask, and maybe a question that the people watching this interview can ask themselves: what are the last few films that you've been to see at the cinema? And maybe your viewers probably are a little bit more interesting, and they have a love for cinema and probably go a little bit more than your average cinema goer. But if you ask most people, it's like James Bond, Avatar, Star Wars, and that's what it takes for somebody to actually physically go to the cinema and watch it these days. Most people will just watch it at home, on that Netflix or Amazon or Sky or something like that. So, it is the way that we're going forward. But unfortunately, films were designed to be shown in a cinema.
Yeah. So you would like to see, a cinema, and sorry, how do I word this? So you'd like to see people go to the cinema more than, kind of stay at home watching stuff on a small screen, because you believe, that cinema should be experienced in an immersive, big screen and to the full. I absolutely love going to the cinema. So, even though I do like sometimes watching Netflix at home when I'm, just back, I don't want to go out again. I will always love going to the cinema. So I hope it sticks around for as long as possible.
Yes. Yeah.
And just last question, where can we find you in terms of, do you have social media or places we can follow you to see your latest news and projects?
I'm on Instagram, and it's Tim Kent Director on Instagram. So follow me if you've got any questions. Shoot me a question and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. Yeah,
sounds great. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tim. And I hope to see more of your work, and look forward to what you're going to be doing in the future as well.
All right. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. Please follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram for more content. Bye for now.
All right.
Don't you want us to be together anymore?
Not like this.
You show what you can do. I hear a siren. Maybe you were wrong about me. I'm dangerous and still. Why don't you give me a sign like the sea? Everybody thinks that I'm okay. Sometimes I think I am too. I'm on the outside looking in. I'm waiting for the shockwaves to begin. Oh, won't you let me hold you for one time? Just a rainy day in a London cafe. A London cafe. So give me one last serenade. Say to me, or swear at me till the night turns into day. And it was a shame when daylight faded, because we didn't notice at all.
Thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. If you like this video, be sure to click that thumbs up button at the bottom of your screen. And also be sure to subscribe to the Fan Carpet YouTube channels. They're absolutely free and so much fun too. Be sure to check out the official website, thefancarpet.com. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay up to date with reviews, competitions, the latest news, and so much more.